Thank you.
Okay. No, man, playing Supersport is always a tough match, regardless of the competition and regardless of the frequency as to how many times have you played them and what was the outcome of the previous result. So we're expecting another tough encounter. It took us 80 minutes in the previous match to break the match down. And again, we are going for the same encounter, which is always fierce, very aggressive, lot of aerial battles, and a very good team to play against, coached by one of the best coaches in the country. So we're expecting a very, very competitive match, which we have to be prepared for and never take things for granted. We all know it was not the easiest match that we played this weekend, so we know what to expect.
Coach, Joseph from Far Post. Over the weekend, your new signings scored late in the game. Do you get tempted to start them in this game?
I wouldn't really think it would be a temptation to start them. I think it would probably be based on the processes that we are following inside in terms of the number of minutes that we think they can play. If we feel they are ready to give us the 90 minutes, we might decide to start them, because it was never an issue of whether can they start the match or not. It was mainly an issue of how far they can go in a match. And they have played 2 matches as substitutes. Possibility of them starting or one of them starting is there, but we'll have to see what happens in our match day -1 training.
Coach Jimmy, Coach, the game against Supersport was yours, and Coach Rulan's 100 game in charge of Sundowns across all competitions. I'm sure that those kind of milestones for you, what do they mean? Is it something that you guys would have chatted ahead of time? Is it something that you guys would have said, by the time we get to 100, this is what we want? 63 wins, 28 draws, 9 defeats.
To be honest, it's we have to appreciate such outcomes. But the truth is, we never really focused on how many matches we have played now. We always worried about the next match, the next match, the next match. It's never really something that is for us as coaches to count, hey, how many matches have we played now and how many have we won? Because you can win the wrong ones that do not make you to win trophies, but you've got a very good number of wins, but you get to the final and lose, and still win 4 matches after that, get to the next final and lose. So for us, it's not the most important thing, but when it's there, we must appreciate and also understand that results like those are a reflection of the group, not a reflection of the 2 coaches or the 3 coaches or the 4 coaches. It's a reflection on the whole group, that is the bunch of players that we have, the technical team that we have, the support staff that we have, the management that we have, the leadership from the board, the chairman and the president of the club. It's a reflection on the whole group, not particular individuals. So we really never take it to heart and think we are special. We appreciate being part of the group.
We'll take questions from this side and on this side. Manqoba, then Lorenzo, then.
Good morning, Coach. Good day. We are from Power FM. Coach, for past seasons, whenever you start a season, you know which period you're starting and you know which period you're finishing. But I think in just a couple of 2 or 3 years, there's been external forces that have sort of made teams either sort of restructure in terms of planning. One of them being the COVID-19 period. This time around is the World Cup in Qatar that has sort of now sort of changed the whole setup of what would have been either the first half of the season. I just wanted to find out internally at Sundowns, has there then been much restructuring that needed to be done to make sure that either the team picks at the right time or?
Obviously, with our periodization, it's always important to know that we don't want to start on a high We use the first 5 matches as part of the last mesocycle of our preparation period. And if you get the outcomes that are very good in those first 5 matches, it's good for you. But you know you are still within the preparatory phase. And knowing the number of matches that we are expected to play within the next 2 months now, it is also very important to periodize your work properly to make sure that you don't burn out quickly. You are ready to play till the last match, and that requires a lot when you consider that we are playing 2 to 3 matches every week, and it's going to be even more difficult for many teams to cope with that. Maybe for us it will be slightly better, considering that we've been in this for many seasons now with the Champions League and all these other matches that we play per season that always force us to play 2 to 3 matches every week. There hasn't been much restructuring. In fact, there has been a reinforcement in making sure that we've got players that we believe all of them are capable to help us in this grueling season, instead of having a big number but you're still not confident about others. And already the number of players that have had a chance to play now does suggest that we are really looking to have a broader squad that can be able to take the dose of all these matches that we are expected to play in this short space of time.
Coach Ranger from the Times. When players leave the club and when players enter the club, sometimes there's a changing morale within the squad. Has there been a positive or a negative effect with the new incomings and outgoings? And has there been anything done as a collective to integrate the new players, especially now that they can't speak English that well?
Who can speak English?
Alendi, Nasir.
Speaks very good English.
You guys said yourself you got tutors for them to that to speak.
No, the truth of the matter is Alende, his English is very good. Remember, he was with Arsenal for quite some time, and he speaks very good English. Yes, here and there he might be caught, but he's comfortable in the language, so we don't have issues in that. And with regard to the integration of the new players and what happens when others go and others come in, I think we are used to that culture now of having to receive those that are coming in and congratulate those that must go and deliver somewhere else, because the challenges and the tasks that are expected in this club is hard for everyone, not only for the players but even for us coaches. We have a responsibility every season to strengthen the club, and at times it's never even an issue of the quality of the player as such, but it's probably the type of a player that we are looking for at that point in time, which makes other players to end up leaving and other players coming in. But we really pay special attention to everything that we are trying to bring into the club so that we do not make too many mistakes. One would say Pavol is gone, Nasir is in, and Pavol scored 9 goals last season, and he did very well. That return is not a bad return, but we wanted something different, and we believe we are on the right track to get what we are looking for, and we congratulate those players that have helped us. Remember, he helped us to get into the final of the MTN 8. He helped us to get into the final of the Nedbank Cup. So we must appreciate, but that does not mean we must not keep looking for what we think will really bring the type and the style of the game that we are looking for the club.
Coach, just your thoughts on the Palace match. Having drawn them now, it means you're going to be playing them 3 times before the end of the year.
Which one?
Palace.
No, at this stage I would not want to talk about Pirates. I have a serious match this in the next 2 days, which I think if I divide my attention and the team ends up dividing their attention, we will have a problem. So our focus should be Supersport. They've got a very important 3 points that we must get, and at this stage I would prefer to entertain Supersport.
Maybe as a, I don't know, I know it has been asked before, but it's a moving target, the progression or the progress report of Province.
No, he's coming up nicely. He has played one friendly, a few minutes there. We want to build him up properly, and he's on the right track. He's looking good. He has lost some weight, and we believe in the next 2, 3, probably 4 weeks, he might be able to really help us.
Shall we move this side? Coming back, we move this side.
Temba Shabalala, Supersports. Coach, I just need to find out something quickly with regards to the new players. Can you take us through the transition or the integration still? I'm seeing that Sundowns before, you used to take players and keep them for a longer time, but now we've seen them, Marcelo has already scored a goal, we've seen, both of them actually, they've come through and just probably, like I would say, walked into the team when they are foreign players. But for you to deal with them, to bring them to speed with the rest of the team?
To be honest, it's not always an easy exercise. Even at this stage, you would not say they are really completely integrated into the group. They have done well. They've scored some important goals. They've had some very good matches. But the integration process of players normally takes a little bit longer. And if you are lucky that players adapt to our playing concept very quickly, probably it would be either they were coming from teams that were playing almost the same formation, or maybe the style of play is not very different from those teams. And with our type of football, I think it's also easier to fit in if you are a technically gifted player, because it's a playing concept that requires a lot of finesse, a lot of movement, a lot of intelligence, and a lot of running, to be honest, because we work very hard off the ball to try and make sure that we don't give a chance to the opposition. Very few matches where we give away big chances. But when we give those few chances, it is probably because of 1 or 2 errors here and there. So it is normally very easy to bring new players into our system, because even our identification process requires that we look at what we think can influence our playing concept or our playing philosophy better. And when we look at these players from the teams they are coming from, and you look at Ayende, what he does for the Chile national team, the position that he's playing for the national team, then it makes it easier for you to know exactly what you think that particular player can bring into your setup. The same thing with Nasir. We saw a lot of matches for him, and we saw him in his national team, and we know exactly what type of a specimen we are looking for to try and get us what we want to and what we believe will help us maybe in our attacking play. Then we must also congratulate them for being able to get into a team with so much pressure, because it's not easy for all these players to come into this group of players and not lose their confidence and come in with a very positive self-esteem and the belief that they can make a difference, because truly speaking, it's always difficult for every player at Sundowns to be guaranteed a chance to play.
Coach Kamkhalo Mokhale of Supersports. Coach, it said that you are good as your last game, and now you're facing Supersport. Does it get difficult the second time around, and on the basis of the performance that you had on Sunday, you then fine-tune what you already have in making sure that you still get the positive results this time around?
The second match in a row is always having a lot inside. One, the level of intrinsic motivation from your players vis-a-vis the opposition. How much do they want it, and how much do your players want it? But also it has elements where if you have beaten a team in the first match, they come to the second match with nothing to lose. And when you go all out and you know, if I lose, that is what everybody expects, that I'm going to lose anyway, then you give everything. And when you give everything and you are playing with that mentality, in most cases you always have better energy better focus and better commitment to each and every situation in the game. But we've got a very committed bunch of players, and the competition amongst our players also makes them not to say, I want to play less in this coming match, because there's someone who is really, really looking forward to get an opportunity if you make a mistake. So competition alone increases the level of motivation from our players, and maybe even the level of focus. There are matches where we also get surprised sometimes, like the game against TS Galaxy, where most of our players did not show the performance that we expected, and it was a very inconsistent performance, and that is something very rare with our group of players, because they know they always have the responsibility to improve or better the previous performance. And even now, this morning, we were already looking at what we did not do right against Supersport in the previous match, and what we can improve, and what areas do we think they nearly punished us on, and how can we improve in those areas. And there's a lot of work that this team puts behind to make sure that we influence the outcome. And we are always optimistic that we will always give our best no matter what, and our best is always good enough.
Thanks, Coach Tsepo from ENCA. Coach, I know there's still 25 matches to be played in the league, but 5 games, 10 points from a possible 15. Is it, from the technical team, are you comfortable with that, or you still think you could have done better, looking at the fact that by the time you play or after playing Supersport, you could go back on top?
To be honest, we did not do according to our plan. Our plan always must give us more points than what we got in the previous match. But the other side of that is that sometimes when you start very well, we don't finish very well. I remember the year we had 71 points. Our first cycle of 5 matches, we only had 7 points, and we had to improve from there. Last season, our first 3 cycles, maybe we had 13 points. But the cycles after that were not as good as the cycles in the beginning. So we have a bigger responsibility to always look at this thing through the eye of the needle and see where did we go wrong. Couldn't we have had a better result against TS Galaxy? We know we could have done better. Against Sekukune, we know we could have done better. And those 2 matches leave a blemish in the ultimate outcome. So we have a bigger responsibility to try and recover along the way. And maybe when we are playing with that mentality to recover, that's when we stay more focused than when you think you have done it all the right way, and you start sitting in your laurels and thinking you have achieved it all. So we are fully aware that we did not get what we wanted, though it was not bad, but we could have done better.
Coach Benjamin Miranda, Football Live. It's just a follow-up on what Zed was said. You said after the game against Kokome that you were not much disappointed because you were within the 5 game cycle. Now you are going to the 6th game. What's your plan going forward so that you avoid that disappointment of a draw against Kokome, for example?
We never want to draw any match, and we never want to lose any match. And I think that it's something that I appreciate a lot about this club, because I think I'm the first person who does not like to lose. And that permeates through to the rest of the team, because the other coaches are more or less like me. I'm one of the bad losers. Even in the smaller teams that I coached, I did not lose a lot. I would rather take a draw, but to lose, no. If you can check the records, I don't like to lose. For me, being in a team like Sundowns that has got a culture and a mentality to win everything, it's exactly what you would want to be in if you are a coach like me, because a lose, even when we have played exceptionally well, that result chases my kids away from me. So it's my mentality, and I've always had this mentality. I remember when I was coaching a team in the ABC Motsepe League, where I started to be the head coach of an ABC Motsepe League team. I got a team 2 weeks before the season started, but I never lost a match for the first 20 matches of the season, and I won the first 15 matches because I like to win. I from school football, from anywhere else, I enjoy that the outcome that makes me to be the one who goes to the next person and say unlucky, not for somebody to come to me and say unlucky, you know.
Fellow colleagues, Coach, your colleague, Coach Rolani, spoke about the club's process in terms of getting the player, and once the player comes in, you get attached to the person, the player, before the player. I mean. So just looking into the French players, Coach, just how are they right now in terms of emotional and mentally, looking at the direction that the club is taking, looks like money on the sidelines or injured, whilst there are marquee players who are coming in and doing well, as some of my colleagues have indicated. How are those guys from the sidelines dealing with that? And also, Coach Rene spoke about
one question, please.
We are fortunate because we don't have French players. So we don't have those problems. Because everybody gets a chance to play in this team because we believe in all of them, and we don't keep players that we don't think are going to influence the outcomes. And the players know we've got a very big cake that we must cut nicely for everybody to get a share, you know.
Moyo, then after that you get the last 2 questions. No old hands as a 4 new hands.
Coach, so much of negative comments came through from Chile, you know, when it became obvious that Marcelo was coming to play for Sundowns, you know. Most of the South Americans don't really follow South African football, not even African football. You know, his move was spoken of as being a step backwards, you know. And I mean, how would you, what are your thoughts when you hear of such sentiments, you know, that looks down about the standard of football in this side of the world?
To be honest, I wouldn't think it is about looking down at our standards, but it's the expectations that they have of their player. Remember, the boy is playing for the senior national team of Chile, and that team is regularly in the World Cup. And this boy was with Arsenal in England. There were possibilities before to go to Italy and all these other big leagues. And you also have your South African players going to Belgium, to all these other leagues. And when he goes to a league that you don't know, you will always say, where is he? In Kosovo? Where is that? You know, and you will have those question marks. But those question marks sometimes have got a positive spin on it, because then they start to follow your football. Then when they start to follow your football, they start to realize that, hey, there is another league that should be given the respect that is required. And that league is the South African League, because now, just look at it, maybe from a positive side. How many Chileans have come to South Africa? And if you've never had a Chilean player, why would they think big of the South African football when they've never had an encounter of what South African football is all about? But now that Marcelo is here and they are looking at Sundowns every day, don't you think it might have a positive spin towards the league? Unlike if they never showed any negativity towards our league. For me, that would have been ignorant, because they've never really been closer to what is happening to South African football, and one of their key players is coming to this league that they don't know about. Now, after having interest in what is happening to South Africa, let's check, maybe, are there no many Chilean players that are going to come to South Africa? Are they not going to have a lot of positive things to say about South African football once they see it very closely and they are able to follow it? Because sometimes when you don't know about a particular league, you always have question marks. Up until you hear, hey, Kosovo is qualified for the World Cup, then you start, hey, boy, this is a serious team or serious country. That is what happens. So even on this Marcelo thing, I take it very positively. With now they will have a little bit more interest in what is happening in our league in order to keep Marcelo in their team. Maybe we'll also have to try and bring the national team of Chile to come and see what South African football is all about. And that becomes a very positive spin, and we have gained one more country that will give us more millions to watch our football, and that for me is very positive.
Sure. Thanks. This is from City Press. Coach, it's only been 5 matches or so. There's been a couple of coaches who have said that Sundowns will easily win another big title. When such news reaches you as coaches, how do you interpret them? Is it just mind games or reality?
I don't even listen to these things because I'm not even on these social media things, and I'm not interested in what somebody thinks, because in most cases they'll sell you a dummy. You will think you are bigger than you are, and yet you have lost against TS Galaxy and you have drawn against Sekukune. So who do you think you are? So any coach that would say we will walk, maybe he's the one who should lose his job, because he should work very hard to make this thing difficult. If I'm coaching a smaller team, I would always want to beat Sundowns, because I want to show what I'm also capable of as a coach, than to now work as a marketing manager of Sundowns and yet I'm a coach of another team, you know. So personally, I would do that, and that is what probably I've done in the past, to try and make sure that I beat these big teams, because anybody can do it. It's not like Sundowns is invincible.
Last question from you.
Coach, it's Kumutum Kwena from Sunday World. My question is almost similar to Tiseto's question. Coach Kevin Hunt mentioned last week that Sundowns' financial muscle is weakening the league, and that Sundowns maybe are streets ahead of other teams. And how do you respond to such consistent and constant criticism or praise, and then without losing, the focus and the job at the end?
I don't think it's criticism. But I would have the same question or same talk when he was at Vets, and Vets was signing so many players and he won the league. Were they killing the league? Because the truth of the matter is, if you were to check that season when Vets won the league, Kevin signed a lot of quality players and he did very well. And that for me was very positive. And to say Sundowns must walk now and win every match because they are signing quality players, I think this thing has been happening for all these years. Sundowns has always signed quality players throughout the years, even before I was here. Even before the president owned this club, they signed top players, Zola Mahobes and the others before. They did that. And I don't think it's always about the amount of money that you can splash to build a team. Because there are teams that are really doing a lot of good work, and they will become a very big force in South African football very soon by focusing on what will work for them. Because the truth of the matter is, if you can improve your coaching in your club, if you can improve your coaching and improve your scouting, you can still have a lot of top players that can challenge any other team in the league. And if I can give you a team that maybe you can make with players that are not as expensive from the PSL, you can build a very strong team by having a very good eye to look exactly at what you want for your team. And I do believe a lot of other teams are doing exceptionally well in that space. Look at Stellenbosch. Stellenbosch has not signed any big name player, but those players very soon will be wanted by all the big clubs in the country because they are good, because their youth program is yielding the results. No wonder they are winning the MTC or the DDC. No wonder they have promoted so many youngsters, and already they have lost some of their top players that were known by nobody, the Duprees, the Quenikas, in as much as he had traveled a little bit, but they are able to replace with the right players. They brought Ndruli from TS Galaxy, they brought Magaga from Baroka, and those are very good young players that can really influence their team. So for me, when teams start to focus more on their youth program, and teams start to focus more on their scouting programs, there are so many players out there. You know, I'm coaching Sundowns now, but probably there are 5, 6, 7 good strikers that I've seen in football in Africa and everywhere else. But teams do not have strikers. And we can't sign all those foreign strikers that I've seen. And some of them are coming from the smallest teams in Africa. We played against a team called Maniema from Congo. Not many people still remember the striker that scored against us. He was a top striker that you would expect South African teams to be looking at these teams when we are playing them, because Kitwa was exceptional against us. He is a very good player, but we don't look at that. We are recycling. The same player that you saw somewhere 5, 6, 7 years ago, you still want to see again. And that is the problem, because we don't have confidence in bringing up the youth, bringing up younger players that can play for you. There is a young boy that played a very big role for his team to do so well in so many competitions. He was a young player that had done exceptionally well, who should have been the key player for that particular team last season. But last season probably played a quarter of the matches. Why? Because we want to recycle the older ones. I'm not saying all players must not be given a chance, but I'm saying teams can do better than what they are doing. They are not really casting their net wide enough to get talent. And in a football team, you should be looking for better players all the time and nothing else.
Thank you, Coach.
But he didn't give us the name of the player.
No, he doesn't. It's clearly not Jawala. Thank you, Coach. Thank you, Coach.